Welcome back, junkies. This is the Daily Wealth Junkie Show, and thanks for joining us again today. I'm Brandon Dukeman here with Will Harvey, and we are your hosts. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and join the group at facebook.com/group/wealth junkies and to subscribe to the show so that you don't miss any of the daily shows. Today, we've got a great show here for you today, and I'm going to turn it over to Will to introduce our awesome guest.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Today we have Angela Anderson on the show, and she works with entrepreneurs, business owners, and helps them to rapidly scale by reprogramming their money code. And you're probably sitting there asking the same question I did, which is, what the heck is a money code? So I will let Angela jump in and just give us her background, how she got to where she is, and what the heck a money code is. So
yeah. Hi, Will. Hi, Brandon and Wealth Junkies. So I'm sure that I perked your interest by saying money code because we're on this podcast discussing all things money and wealth and happiness and joy and what we're going to do in our lives that's meaningful and fulfilling. So when I finished college, I was out of there.
Same here.
Same
here.
And
where'd you go to school?
I went to school in a small town in Colorado called Adams State University. And the funny thing about it is I had all of these ideas that I was going to do a couple years there because I was living overseas in Thailand. That's where I finished my high school. And so coming to the United States, it was just easy for me to go to this small town because I had family close by. And so I had all these plans that after a couple of years of adjusting back to, living in the US and college life and whatnot, that I was going to transfer to a larger school. And I just never got around to it. And I think that we can really easily get into that. Like we can think about our lives and how time flies by and you can become kind of complacent. And then we hear stories and we get on podcasts like this, we hear stories of people, becoming very, very wealthy at an early age. And it wasn't because you sat around and waited for a bright idea to fall out of the sky, and I think that's one of the biggest things, that if you've graduated college and you're like, well, okay, well, what do I do now? Or I'm not that excited about what I got my degree in, or I'm not excited about the job opportunities that are there, then the thing you've got to do is you've got to decide and do something. And so what I did was I joined the Peace Corps, right? The most logical thing. I went halfway across the world and I decided I wasn't going to step foot in the United States for the 2.5 years that I was gone. And I was just going to totally reinvent myself and connect with, who I am. Because that's another thing too, is when you're in college, right? And you're listening to all this information from your professors and you've got all these social influences, and your parents might still have a hand in a say in your life. And there comes a time where we need to break away and we need to figure out what's going to work for me. Who am I in all of this? What are my actual natural tendencies? What are my real thoughts about these things? So I was like, bye everyone, I'm going to the Peace Corps, see you in 3 years. So, and that was amazing. And that really helped me define at the core, and reconnect at the core of who I was and who I am. And I think that's the most important advice that I can give our listeners is that you are already a complete human being, no matter what age you are. And we grow and we develop as young children, but we have these tendencies that we then gravitate towards. And then sometimes, depending on the influences around us, we get pulled really far away from them. And we don't always live a life in alignment and resonating with who we truly are and who we're meant to be and the things that we're meant to do and the experience that we want to have in this life. So when you finish your education and when you're trying to figure out what your next move is, I say do something that is going to help you connect to your soul. And that is just going to be like the quickest way that you can get all the downloads and all the wisdom and, like the bright light on you, what you need to figure out what your next best move is.
Wow.
That was huge. Yeah, that was awesome.
You got to find yourself. I get it. I mean,
Right.
Everybody's going to college because they think that's what you're supposed to do. And everybody's kind of filling that cookie cutter platform of, go to school, get the education, get the job. But, you got it different. Graduate and then figure out what's best for you. So
How
Yeah.
old were you were you early 20s?
Yeah, I think I was 21
Okay.
when I graduated. Now, the application process for the Peace Corps was kind of extensive, and so I got a couple band-aid jobs.
Okay.
And I trained for a marathon, and moved to a city and rented an apartment
You're
downtown to
like, oh,
have.
no big deal. I trained for a marathon. I did. Yeah, yeah. It's just in my spare
Right.
time.
I worked at a clothing store, and I got up at 4 a.m. to do my running in, and
Wow.
wow.
but I had a few band-aid jobs as I was going through the process of applying for the Peace Corps. And that's another thing too that was interesting, is because I wasn't like, I'm going to the Peace Corps, I'm getting in. I was just kind of more like, well, I'm going to apply for this thing and I'm going to see how it goes. I'm just going to take it one step at a time. So sometimes when we're thinking about what our next move is don't look at it as you have to climb this whole mountain. It's what's the next step. How do I get
Mhm.
to the lake, and then how do I get to the tree line, and so on and so forth. So sometimes I think that when we finish up a big education like that, we're like, that's why we feel like a deer in the headlights, is because it's like we've climbed this huge mountain of making it through school, however many years and how much debt or it
Right.
took you to do it, and then you're done. It's like we feel like we're hung out to dry.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. It's
it's
like, what
really
now?
more like, what's your next step that you can make that is taking full responsibility and also in alignment with who you are, because these are the most vital steps to take, because that you don't want to end up waking up 40 years old and wondering, what the hell have I been doing? I'm not happy.
Absolutely.
I've got back pain, and you know I'm in debt, and
Right.
I've got these kids that I can't stand half the time. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
don't want to end up like
Amen.
that. And now is the time to really, because all of that adds up. It's just like an empty room. You don't have to be living in a room in order for that room to collect dust. Things still happen, and matter still is circulating around us. And so every little step and decision that we make really does add up, and it is
Mhm.
important.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So you did the Peace Corps for 3 years, and you really found yourself. So what was your next move after that?
Yeah. So from then on, I was like totally anchored in what I want to do and what feels good to me. And so I came back to the United States, and I immediately started figuring out how I could go back overseas, and how someone else could pay for that. So I applied for scholarships to be able to start in on a master's degree, and I received a scholarship, and went to Chile and started getting a
Nice.
master's degree there. And so I spent some more time in South America, because that's where I served for the Peace Corps. Spent some more time there. While all that was happening, though, I did end up meeting my significant other, and I ditched the master's degree and got married and had kids instead. And so it was all in divine timing with that, and ended up coming back to the United States and just living in an off a grid home, in the mountains, enjoying life, being a stay-at-home mom, raising my kids. And then once, I always had this hankering to have something going on where I was bringing in money, and I'm one of those rare birds that is willing to admit and say out loud that one of my favorite hobbies is making money. I
Absolutely.
don't like to
As it
knit,
should be, right?
right? I don't like to knit. I don't know how to sew. I love to cook though, but I just love making money.
Yeah.
Even when I was a kid, I would make these menus and I'd take them to my parents, and they'd pay me, and I'd make them breakfast in bed. So I was always figuring out ways to make money. And so when my
It's like a
kids were,
game, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I
How
totally
what can I come
agree
up
with it.
with in my head and monetize?
Right.
Yeah,
That's
and
that's
that
cool.
would then bring value to someone, and someone would be like, "Oh, this is great." So when my kids were really little, I wasn't just going to sit around. I just not in my nature. So I started becoming an entrepreneur and growing businesses, and I've built and grown various businesses over the years, and till the one that I'm doing today has always really been a part of me. But I needed to go on the journey that I did in order to get to where I'm at now, because I think that there's certain businesses that you have to have an emotional maturity for, and you have to have gone through a certain amount of challenges, and built up that stamina and that resilience in order to just really what's the word I'm trying to look for, to just grow in, to be able to evolve into where you're at today. So some of the ways that I made money was being a health and fitness professional and going online and creating info products and stuff like that.
Okay, I was going to ask. So that's one of the ways. What are you said you developed multiple businesses. So what are some of the other ones? And then also give us an example of a business where you need to have that emotional maturity, like you just said.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the businesses that I've done is I used my love for cooking, and so I was that person at the farmers market, and so I was selling like gourmet vegan baked goods and tamales and things like that. And so that was really great to bring in to a couple $1,000s on a weekend as a stay-at-home mom with little
Nice.
kids. That was really awesome for me to be able to. It was a lot of work, but it was also easy and something fun for me to do because I just enjoy cooking. Then I moved into doing financial management and bookkeeping. So and
Those are like
again,
opposite ends of the spectrum.
I know it's crazy,
Totally different things. Funny.
and a lot of my clients know this, and people who've listened to me on other podcasts, they know that when I was 8 or 9 years old, my parents started to teach me bookkeeping and how to manage finances and how to track your income and some of the basics of money. So I always actually got a lot of joy balancing my bank accounts. When I was in college, that was when I got my first credit card, and I got the credit card not so that I could go on a shopping spree, but because I wanted status. I
Nice.
wanted to be like,
Yeah.
I have some
I've got a
plastic.
credit card. Yeah.
Yeah. And somewhere inside of me, my wisdom was like, you need to start to get good credit. You need to start to build a credit line here.
hmm
Because again, I've always had this thing inside me of I'm rich and I'm going to do things that are going to help me build my wealth ever since I was a kid. So, the opposite end of the spectrum, I went towards bookkeeping and finance because I just needed to just relax and chill a little bit. And it was something that I've always known how to do. And you probably know that I would say, I don't know, maybe 80% of the population hates that stuff. They hate doing their
Absolutely.
taxes. They hate
I'm in
tracking their
that.
money.
Well,
I'm in
and I would
100%.
say probably another 95% don't even know how to do them. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, I was just getting clients out the wazoo, and it was awesome. It was, it was really fun. It's fun to work with people and help them feel safe about their finances, help them feel like they're in more in control and that they're headed in a positive direction. And so I did that for a while, and that is where the opportunity to be a money code reprogrammer landed in my lap, because one of my clients was the originator of this work called Psych K at the Psych K Center International. And so that's where I worked. And because I was just me and I was going to clients' homes, of course we would get to know each other. And I mean, I knew their finances. And so there's this a kind of trust and intimacy that is built. And so that is where I learned about how I learned about what I call the money code. He doesn't call it the money code. The Psyche Center International is that big vision of global
hmm
consciousness. And it's really based on how can you change your programs that are stored in your subconscious mind about how you do money and your relationship with money. Because if you think somehow that everything is just black and white and linear in this world, then that's where you can get so challenged and so confused and so stuck. So it's only when we open up the hood and pull back those curtains and see, like the mechanics of what your thought patterns and your habits and things that you're not even aware of. Like, for example, my kids told me, they said, Mom, you don't get in the car and spend 5 minutes on your phone anymore. I never even knew I was doing that because
That's right.
That's funny.
they'd always get annoyed with me, like, let's just go, let's just go. But
Right.
I guess I was spending 5 minutes catching up on all my texts.
Wow.
And, so what my point is that we have so many unconscious behaviors that stem from the programming, the
hmm
codes that we were given as children, because you're such a sponge when you're a kid, that then we're just acting out in a lot of times some very sophisticated ways that then have a strong effect on your relationship with money and how much you can spend, how much you spend, how much you make, how you manage it, how you grow your wealth.
What are some examples there? Like, I don't even know what questions to ask here because it's very
There's so many
psychological.
questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just so. Yeah, I mean, talk to us a little bit more about the money code. I mean, what are some of the subconscious things that you see that can be kind of reprogrammed that to really get you on track?
Yeah. So I'll give a lot of day-to-day examples of clients that I've worked with. Is I have some that she is Chinese, and she watched her family be persecuted. And in fact, a family member of hers was murdered because of being so wealthy.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
so we're talking extremes here. She went on in her life to build a multi-million-dollar business and lost it all.
Hmm.
Huh.
Okay, so now she's moved to the United States and is ready to get back at it and become a billionaire again. And she realized that she has a thing where she has no problem making a ton of money, but boy, she better get rid of it as fast as she can. And she could see it over and over again and how this happened. Like think of a time in your life where you were given a really strong message about money that might not be very positive and
Mm-hmm.
might not be very supportive. And this is where the awareness is really important, and the maturity. And it doesn't matter how old you are to have it. What matters is how many times are you going to be given this lesson. And if you want your life to change, are you willing to see how many times you've been given it over and over again, and see what part you're playing in it, and change yourself so that you can change the effect. We talked about, before we started recording, we talked about addiction, right? We talked about
Yeah.
certain, there are patterns there. Any kind of addiction, whether it's drug, food, alcohol, or spending, or being in debt,
Yeah.
is all of it boils down to a set of codes. How I like to describe it is codes. And these are really directions that are hardwired inside of your body, and that say, if this, then that. And it's
Huh.
so difficult to get out of those knee-jerk reactions. But the good news is, and this is where I come in, the work that I do is we've discovered a set of tools and processes that are based in neuroscience. It's based on biology and epigenetics that show if we can actually go in and access your subconscious mind, and not just talk about what we would like for to be different, and
Mm-hmm.
not just have all this awareness, oh, these are my patterns and these are the lessons. What we want to do is we really want to be able to change the hardwiring. And so what we have here with what I do is we go into your subconscious mind, because our research is showing that only 5%, at the most 5% of your day, of what you are in control of, is happening on a conscious level. Everything else is just happening on autopilot. Think of everyone driving a car out there. They're not thinking about
Absolutely.
driving,
Right.
right?
Turn
Right.
signal, and they're not. It's just habit.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
It's just habit. And what I'm saying is the way you do money is just habit. The way
Huh.
that you, what kind of business deals you get into is all based on your self-esteem and what you think you're worth. There's some people that can even choke out. Like, people contact me oftentimes and they think that I work on an hourly rate. And I have to be, this one person that I wrote to yesterday, I was like, well, I told you that this is the amount of time that we would spend together, but you need to understand that the work that we do together is about the value of your transformation. I couldn't say that 10 years ago. I would be like, $65 an hour.
Right.
Is that, and
Right. Is that too high?
right. Yeah. Like, can you do
Right.
that? Is that going to work for
Yeah.
you?
I'll do
And
35.
right. Yeah.
Right.
Like, new client. Okay. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is we have so many things going on in terms of how we do money, how we ask for it, how we manage it, how we spend it, that is all tied together, and you can reprogram that so that you can raise your self-worth and you can raise your sense of responsibility, and that then raises your net worth. Another client of mine, he's in Paris, he's a doctor, makes a lot of money, but he's in a lot of debt. And he's like, after working with you, and it was just after a session, he said, in the past, I used to just pay 20, 30 euros for an Uber. He goes, and I was just doing all these things to just, kind of like act rich and feel rich and be
Mm-hmm.
rich.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, I don't need to do that kind of stuff anymore. I've got, my priorities are different. There's other things in
That's
my
cool.
life. So,
Right.
so we're all just so unique with how we do it, which is why mostly I work one-on-one. In terms of helping
Okay.
you reprogram your money code. It's more of a one-on-one kind of situation. Now, in terms of wealth management and wealth growth, yeah, we all need to have some basic habits in line that we need to be doing on a conscious level, like day-to-day action, like how you brush your teeth every day, hopefully.
Right.
Right?
Hopefully, right?
Hopefully. And if you don't, again, when you're 40, you're going to need a tooth pulled.
Yeah.
Right.
And hopefully you've got the
You
wealth
know?
to be able to pay for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the strategies that you use to reprogram the thinking and the money code?
Yeah. So this is where it gets really fun for people, and to go look at the science behind it, because there's a part where it can really seem very woo-woo, like, oh, well, okay, she's just talking money mindset, and she's talking like I need to say to myself, I'm rich and I'm abundant and I'm free. And although that is true, there's some mechanics in there that most people in pop culture that we haven't gotten, that we haven't received. So it's kind of the difference between, downloading a plan on how to get six-pack abs on the internet versus actually going to work with a trainer that's going to say, hey, this is how your metabolic typing is. And this is because, we can look at people like, there's people that are long and skinny. My
Mm-hmm.
husband does 5 pull-ups and he starts getting ripped, and I'll do pull-ups for 3 months and I'm still struggling. So we all have to, again, work with our own unique circumstance. And what the framework is really, though, is look at your situation. Okay, what's going on? And then look at what is it that you do want. Okay, I'm making X amount of money. I want to make, $20,000 a month. I want to make $50,000 a month. Most people get bogged down. Well, how am I going to do this? I need to go buy, 4 more buildings, and I need to create a course, and I need to, 10K a month. I'm going to earn that out of the course. And I didn't work one-on-one with people. I need to ask for a raise. We get bogged down in the how, when what I've seen over and over again is, if you can change your beliefs about um, of what do you need to believe about yourself, and what do you need to have in place, and what's the kind of person you need to be, and what kind of habits do you need to have in place. If you can look at it from that'll get you from where you are at to where you want to go, and then change those at a subconscious level. That is where the money is. And then the how, and the relationships that you need to create, and the opportunities and the people that need to come in and make that happen, that becomes so much easier and more organic and more in the flow.
So when someone hires you, you got a new client. You're starting from that point with them, and you're running through that. You're identifying each one of those questions that you just asked.
Yes.
Okay.
And we do that every single session,
Okay.
because we've got a lot going on, and we look at your life and your money situation and your goals from all those different angles. And one of the first things that we do, and this is like, okay, some people can't even say, they're embarrassed to say that they want to be billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
They can't even spit it out. So that gives us a really huge insight on those codes. What those codes are, being rich or wanting to be really, really rich is embarrassing. I'm scared of what people are going to think of me. I'm scared of being judged. I'm scared of being taken advantage of. Well, my God, how much am I going to have to pay in taxes? Like, I can't stand the
Right.
current
Mm-hmm.
administration, all kinds of stuff. We're loaded. And don't think for one second that all of that baggage doesn't have anything to do with your current reality,
Hmm.
because it does.
Wow.
It has a huge effect on our current reality.
So you kind of peel back the layers of the onion just to figure out what the root cause is as to why someone thinks that way, and then how you can basically change the way that they think. And then from there, they will have an easier time at attaining whatever it is that their goal is, or it's kind of like the be, do, have model, where everyone thinks we need to, once I have this, I'll be able to do it. But it's really, it should be reversed, where if I be, the be comes first. And if I am that way and I act that way, then, and I have those thoughts, that it'll naturally come.
Yes, and you do have to take action. I am a big fan of busting ass. I love it.
Yeah.
I love working hard, and I
Mhm.
love applying myself, but I don't love it when I feel like I'm pushing up against a wall, or when I feel like I'm not in alignment, or when I feel icky, or like like I'm an online person, and so I have to do a lot of copywriting, right?
Uh-huh.
I have to do a lot of sales pages. I have to talk with a lot of people. If it doesn't feel right, and it's and I'm making my money in that way, then yeah, that's when you know that there's something inside of you that needs to shift. But specifically, what happens in a session, or when you reprogram your money code, or when you work with your subconscious, is what I'm saying, is it's a very different process than what a lot of people take you through with wealth creation on a conscious level. On a conscious level, we're doing the budgets, right? We're doing the accounting, we're doing the money management, the goals, we're setting aside for taxes, we're separating our money, and that is very important and very practical. You're never going to get yourself to do that, or it's kind of like, even some people, you don't necessarily have to be the one making all the entries and doing all the nitty gritty. You can hire a bookkeeper, right? You can have financial manager, especially as you get up into the multiple six figures. You probably don't have the time to be the one doing all of the nitty gritty,
Mhm.
Right.
but it's kind of like when you hire a house cleaner, you have to kind of clean your house before they show up. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, you got to clean for the cleaning crew, right?
Yeah, same thing with money. And so this is what this is. If you don't clear your own self out, you're never going to get to a point where you can be on it and be organized and be productive and be able to delegate to the people who delegate these things, so that your money is going to grow. And what we've seen is that on a conscious level, that is where these systems fail us, is that they don't have the fullness that we're looking for. They don't really get to the heart of the matter. They don't really, there's a difference between waking up in the morning and being like, wow, I've got a busy day and I've got some hard things ahead and I'm going to tackle it, versus having to psych yourself up. And
Right.
people, get up in the morning and they dread. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean
Yep.
that it's any less or more challenging. It's the way that you're approaching your challenges,
Yeah.
right?
It's simply your mindset going into it. Yeah, that's awesome.
So, is there a common like limiting factor that you see in a lot of your clients, or is it just different for everybody, or is it that one main big limiting factor that you see in a lot of your clients?
It's quite different for everybody. My clients have certain characteristics. They're hard
Hmm.
workers. They invest in themselves. Um, 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 they've had success with money, and they know they're meant for something more. And they're also, we say the word money, and a lot of people get this feeling like that's egotistical or superficial, and that's just
Hmm.
a limiting belief. We're all wonderful people underneath it all, and doing the best that we can. And
Right.
if you think about, if you had access to all the money in the world, what would you do with it? And it, most of the time, after you take some for yourself, people are starting nonprofits and they're sharing it with their family, and they're buying their mom a new house. And
Right.
Right.
we all, at the end of the day, want to share, and we want to create community and connection around the wealth that we can create for
Hmm.
ourselves. And so reprogramming your money code is not difficult. It's just that I'm happen to be trained in a certain technique that just works. It's amazing. It's really simple. It's techniques that I've been taking my clients through for 10 years. It's called Psyche. And I specifically work with my clients with money, but we can also use the technique for any goal that you want to have to achieve in your life. Because a lot of times, like a specific client of mine is real hard worker, entrepreneur. And some of the things that we've done has also helped him with his health. So when you have your health, right, then you have your energy and you have your focus and you have that positive attitude and you feel good.
Yep.
So it's all connected. We're such wonderfully connected human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
right.
I know you said one of your clients, the doctor, he said after that first visit with him or first meeting with him, he said he really changed his thinking. Is this time frame different for everybody as well? Or, is there kind of a turning point, 6 months, year that you really see the growth from them?
So, there's always a result after the first session or two.
Mm-hmm.
There's always some result where they have an awakening, or even some of my clients, one of them, let's see, I think it was after the 5th session that we had, he reached the highest he's ever had in sales for the month. He won an all expense paid vacation.
Wow.
I remember seeing him posted on Facebook. I was like, what? So yeah, I mean, he's just been breaking records after every session, after every month, he's just breaking records. And
That's
when I
awesome.
met him, he was exhausted, totally exhausted and just over it. And now he's got his energy back. He's breaking records. So I would say I'm so confident about working with your subconscious mind and how effective that is, because your subconscious mind is 40 million bits faster than your conscious mind. It can process so quickly, it can multitask, it can handle so many things. I'm so confident that I know that after one session of anything that you do, doesn't have to be specifically with me. There's other modalities out there that work with your subconscious, that you're going to feel a shift and something is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But like anything, you've got to stay focused and you've got to stick with it. So it's do you want to commit yourself to a journey of self-discovery and self-development and growth and change for life? And you don't have to commit to the same modality for the rest of your life, because there's always wonderful things happening out there and ways that people say things, right, that turn lights on and give us epiphanies. But what I'm asking is the commitment to yourself and your growth and changing for the better. That is what you need to have. And if you have that, you're going to always get results, and it's just going to get better and better and better and better.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Awesome. And are you meeting monthly with them? How often are you meeting with your clients?
Every other week.
Every other week. Okay.
Yeah. Then they have access to me in between the sessions. So all the sessions are dedicated to working with the subconscious, reprogram the subconscious. In between sessions are where the conscious action, where they get to work and they start doing things. Yeah.
And so when you
that.
check back in with them, are you making sure, holding them accountable for, them taking the conscious steps too? So let's say I meet with you this week, you go over everything you need to do and then say, hey, the next week you got to take those conscious actions. And when we meet, are you following up with them saying, hey, are you taking those actions like we discussed?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because at the end of the session, I say, what's a couple things that you will do? Not an option within the next 24 hours that you will do. So, and lo and behold, my clients that, feel a little stuck or like they're not getting anywhere, it's because they're seeing that they're not taking action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also really a really wonderful realization in itself, is to work with someone and have that person. I don't scold my clients. I say, okay, well, let's look at this. You didn't take action. So it's back to that journey of self-discovery and willingness to take responsibility. And okay, well, now we're going to work on why you're not taking action. We're going to change those codes, right? Because it's like, well, how come these pants that I put on didn't work? Well, there's a hole in the butt,
Right.
I didn't see that before. I had, I had to lay on the bed to zip them up, and now, there's a hole. Yeah. So it's always, if you're willing to keep showing up. But there comes a point where, again, back to where I said in the beginning, if there's patterns that you see over and over again, you have to zap those patterns.
Yeah.
Just zap them and snap out of it. And people do it with a lot of conscious methods, with willpower and force and sheer determination, and that's cool. But it can be tiring, and it can feel kind of self-defeating, which is then then that's why I say, hey, go to your subconscious, because it's like really fast and super keen to change.
Right.
And it's not, it doesn't think in big picture ideas, and it doesn't actually even hold on to judgments. That's your conscious mind doing all that stuff. Your subconscious mind is just like a wonderful supercomputer.
Yeah.
You just go in and change it.
Yeah. It sounds that easy. Just go in and change it.
Just go in and change it. It is.
Yeah,
it is.
I believe you. If you're making it work. So, all right, Angela. So we're going to transition over to our moments of truth section here. It's the same 7 questions that we ask all our guests, and we're just going to get right into it here. Who is your success role model?
Oh, my success role model. Wow. I love that question. I would say at this time, Michelle Obama.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's the first time we've heard her come up. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your biggest success?
My personal biggest success?
Personal or business or both?
Yeah. I've reinvented myself like 3 times.
Okay.
Awesome.
And it's been,
It takes energy and effort.
yeah, it's a lot of energy and a lot of effort, but each time that I do it, it actually gets scarier, but I do it anyway. And it's like amazing.
Well, why does it get scarier for you?
Because I think that, like, the last time that I reinvented myself, which was just last year, I moved out of my home that I'd been in for 15 years and like totally adored, and it was beautiful and featured in magazines and everything. I just said, done,
Done. Just like that.
Done.
Yeah.
Flipping the switch. And I don't know if that, and then also I have more people that I'm accounting for, being a mom and being in a marriage. So it's not just me anymore, where I can say I'm packing my bags and joining the Peace Corps. So there's a lot of,
more moving parts.
Yeah, there was a time where, my husband and I, we were talking in person and texting and phone calling constantly, because we had so many decisions to make.
Wow.
And not enough face-to-face time, because we're both so busy that we'd say, okay, bye. And then we get in our car, and 5 minutes later and pick it right back up.
Wow, that's funny.
So
that's funny.
yeah. And that's the thing, is when you're growing your wealth, when you're changing, there are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Everything around you is changing too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Angela, what's a typical day for you look like?
Okay. So I get up at 6, which is kind of late for me. There's times I got up at 4:30, but I get up at 6 now, and I do some meditation mindset work. And it's kind of go with the flow. Sometimes I just want to meditate and be quiet. Sometimes I do EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. And then I always do my own work with myself. So when I see that there's a belief coming up for me that I want to change, based on the contemplation that I've done throughout the week, when it's time to make the change. Because here's another thing, is sometimes we don't always want to change. We'd rather be right, right? Or we'd rather be, so I'm like that too. I know I have this thing going on, but I'm not ready to change it. I'm too angry right now.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I spend really only a half hour doing that. Get my kids up, get ready for school. I have, I'm really dedicated to my self-care. So I have stick to my nutrition. I get my food ready for the day. I love to exercise. So I exercise, and then I work with clients. I do interviews like this. I'm a 1-person show at this time.
Nice.
with my online business. So so I work until the kids come home, and they come home and everything gets shut off, and it's just family time, and it's really awesome. Great. Yeah.
That's great.
That's cool. What's your favorite quote?
So I love Rumi. Do you guys like Rumi?
I'm not even sure what that is, to be honest with you.
Nice. Oh, he's a poet.
Okay.
And there's a quote of his that says, "You wander from room to room, searching for the necklace that's already around your neck."
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Wow.
That's really good.
I like
It's
that
like
one.
you already have it inside you and you just keep searching. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's good.
What are some of your hobbies? I know you just mentioned a few of them, but what
Yeah.
are some of your hobbies?
Making money.
Yeah.
Making money and making money. Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time with that because with my business, which is, of course, the goal is to work with clients and get them results, but money is involved.
Mm-hmm.
I have another business with it, which is real estate, and I consider that a hobby.
Yeah.
Sometimes that everything is going fine and the money just comes in. I don't have anything to do. And other times, Christmas Eve, you get a call and the heating is not working and you're like, ah. So, yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that. And then I love to cook and self-care. And so I spend quite a few hours making food, and juicing and, all that stuff. And then of course, meditation and all of that groovy.
Yeah. All the
Nice.
fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. What's the best business book that you've read?
Oh, honestly, I Think and Grow Rich has really rocked my world over and
Okay.
over
That's a
and
great
over
book.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot
And
to learn from that one.
Yeah. And I think it's categorized as personal development.
I think it might be too. Yeah.
Yeah. Another
Yep.
one that I really enjoyed was The Charge by Brendan Burchard.
Okay.
Okay.
The Charge. He's gotten a few more since then have been published. So it's yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, awesome.
I've heard of him. He's got his own podcast actually that I've
Mhm.
listened to a few times. So
Yeah.
Last question here. If there was one key piece of advice that you'd leave our listeners with about achieving success, what do you think it would be?
Stay true to you. And if you don't know who you are, it's okay. Be committed to finding that out because a lot of us are lost. We do feel lost.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, and it's like we've been filled up by other people and other people's ideas and what we should do and what we should think. And there is a you underneath all of that, and commit to finding out what that is.
Very good.
Awesome. So, Angela, how can listeners get in touch with you, and if they're interested in finding out their money code, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so go to my website, angelaanderson.life. Direct shot is if you go to the Work With Me section. No, not the Work With Me section. The Free Goodies section. There it is. Just go ahead and schedule a Be Rich Now breakthrough session. So if you want to get started working together right away to reprogram your money code, just do that. Just go ahead and we'll get on the phone or we'll get on my video conference line. We'll talk about what's going on, figure out what's going on with your current money code. I'll give you some suggestions. If it's a good fit for us to work together, then we'll talk about that. If it doesn't feel good and it doesn't seem like that's the right direction for you, then I'll give you some more recommendations on where you can go. If you're not quite ready to jump in and just talk with me about working with me, I have a few other free things on the website. A PDF, which is 5 Steps to Financial Peace and Abundance. It's a really good one. And then I've got a free training, and it's Reprogram Your Money Code. So I go into even more depth, some of the nerdy science and some of the things behind money codes and how it all works with your subconscious.
Perfect.
That's awesome. Angela, thank you very much. We appreciate you being on the show here today and talking about how to unwrap your money code. I think it's very interesting here. And for the listeners, don't forget, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies and subscribe to the show so that you don't miss any of the daily shows. Again, Angela, we appreciate you being here, and listeners, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Angela.